Good afternoon, everybody. I call this meeting to order, Committee of the Whole, October 7th, 2025. I'll start off with emergency evacuation procedures. If we should encounter an emergency, we can exit the building from the lobby, either to the west or to the east. If for some reason those exits are not available, we can use the north exit here behind Council. Our muster point is located near the gazebo in Lions Park. If we are evacuated for any reason, we will not re-enter the building until we are given the all clear by staff. Just as a pre-note, Committee of the Whole is a chance for the Council to, some people use the expression, hash over ideas, to discuss the things in broad terms without being committal to a final decision. And that way administration has the ability to bring things back to us in a more, call it formal, but more formal setting, the actual regular council meeting, where then the votes are final. And they might lead to new bylaws or new policies. But the Committee of the Whole is a little bit less structured in terms of how we speak about issues. I'll also note that this might be my last formal engagement as Deputy Mayor. So, any new items for the agenda, Ms. Phillips?
No additions, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Could I have a mover to adopt the agenda? And Councillor Rilling, sorry, I got so used to seeing Councillor Rilling say it. Councillor Dakin, it's nearly like we have these secret roles here. Councillor Rilling often adopts the agenda on our behalf. Councillor Dakin, thank you. So moved. All those in favor? And carried. And our first item is a special events policy review found on page 2. We're going to ask Ms. Collicutt to lead us through the report portion, and then we'll give feedback and discuss.
Good evening, Council. Okay, so today I am bringing forward the special events policy for some discussion and review. We've heard some comments that the timelines often take a really long time, and so we wanted to have the conversation with Council. Two things, one being the policy, if Council would like to see some changes being made to the authority levels and what that could potentially look like. And then we also want to bring forward having events and what that could potentially look like on Festival Street. So if Council is agreeable, I'd like to go over the approvals first. So in your agenda package, in the report, I have listed the different categories that we have for the different events that we have, has the thresholds in here, and then who also gives the approvals for them. So the first one we have is the category A, so that's when events are being held on arterial roads or the road has to be closed. And then it also has other special circumstances, so for example, liquor in parks or activities that are outside of the regular park hours. So that a minimum approval time is 3 months. So that gives time for the departments to communicate, ask questions to the different organizers. There's quite a bit of back and forth that goes through that process. So the different departments would include things such as Public Works, working with AHS and the RCMP. It's usually AGLC as well, and any requirements that could be needed there. And then it goes to Council for approval. Category B is events that have a road closure, expect more than 500 people attending, and it could also include alcohol. That application time typically will take 2 months, and those approvals typically will go to the Community Services Committee. The last category is category C. Those are the ones that we would classify as a lower risk event. It's usually happening in a park, a trail, or a parking lot, and it just takes 1 month to approve, and that just goes to administration. The other ones to note that would also go to administration is if there's an event that's happening year after year, we don't have any major complaints or concerns, those ones also go to administration, and they wouldn't go to community services or to council for approval. So a prime example of that one could be, for example, this past summer we had the ball hockey event at the lake. So that one did not need to go to community services or to council. It's quite a large event. It does attract a large large number of people. However, it has been happening for a number of years with no concerns or complaints, and so administration has the authority to make those approvals. What we're seeing now is, and I would say especially since COVID, and COVID did change things for us, we are back to where we were before with events. So we are seeing a relatively large number of events, but it's not a lot of new events. So very few events come to council. I can't even remember the last time I brought an event to council or to community services. Typically it is those reoccurring events that are happening on an ongoing basis. So I want to leave that with council for that discussion. If council would like to see any changes be made here on the approvals, again, we did bring this forward, I think it was last February. There wasn't a whole lot of changes that were made at that time. So it is a relatively fresh policy for council, but I do want to open that up.
All right, I look for others to make comments, and I'll make some too, but Councillor Mearns? Councillor Mearns.
Like you said, we don't see a lot of applications. I'm just curious, are these meeting what needs to be met for all the categories, or based on recommendation from administration? Is there a change you would recommend?
Through the chair, it's really up to what council wants to see and how much authority you want to see. When we had a conversation with our insurance company, that was one of our, not one of our concerns, but one of the things that we wanted to bring forward is this what you're seeing in most municipalities? Is this standard? And they said for the most part, your timelines are on par, especially when you're looking at the higher caliber events or the high risk events. We are asking for safety and supervision plans. We're working through a lot of those things, and it does take time. For a lot of groups, it can be new, and having to think about safety and those pieces, it's new for them. It's not something that they do in their day-to-day jobs, especially when it's volunteer-based. So it does take that amount of time to go through. It's also really important when we're thinking about our risk and the level of risk that we are willing to take as a municipality. We want to make sure that people are safe. And when we're having an event, whether it's in the Nexor Center or it's out in our park, we're not just considering the safety risks of that event, it's of the area around them. So for example, if you have an event very close to a street, or the lights are there and something happens, somebody driving by has a medical emergency, we have to be aware of that, and we have to have a safety and supervision plan in place for that. There's a lot of things to consider, and so many people when they're planning events aren't thinking of that. They're thinking, oh, I'm just gonna have a few bouncy castles, and the worst thing that's gonna happen is some kid's gonna fly out and hit their head. But in reality, there's so many other things to consider.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Hansen.
I have lots. Hold on, this microphone is like miles away. Lots of thoughts on this one. I'd love to see us do whatever we can to make specifically external events be something that is just so seamless to hold in the town of Sylvan Lake. I've expressed it a couple of times, but I would rather see us eliminate one or two of our internal events and have triple the amount of external events, because I think it is a better practice for us to have others host those. Now, I recognize that that is a challenge, and many people that come to us that host events do not do this regularly. They're not professionals, and it is a bit of a clunky process. So I'm wondering if there's any way we can add into this policy really some hand-holding. How easy can we make this for folks? And some of the things I see are reducing those times. I'd like to see all of them in half, meaning 2 weeks for some event approvals, other ones being 6 weeks and I'm not sure what and a month. I think that that is really reasonable. I also think that there could be periods in time in there that the clock needs to be stopped if we are waiting for them to get something back. That obviously shouldn't count against, but I think that 6 weeks for those big events from first contact is still gives us lots of time to do that portion. And I also know that we can approve events, but they can't go forward sometimes until they've provided a couple of those last minute details. So I think we could write that into there. I'd love to see us make some edits when it comes to things that we charge. Seeing in there that we're charging people for power, and I know we charge for parking spaces. I'd love to see those eliminated and just be things you could ask for without a whole other process. Parking spaces during the summer months, maybe that's something different, but if parking went to a year-round program, I'd love to see that parking spaces are comped too if it's outside of the summer seasons. I attended an event just last weekend, and one of the challenges they had was their generator broke down, and it was right on the pier, and the table that they needed was was sitting immediately next to the power plug, and they weren't allowed to access power. So putting things like that in, I don't think it's a big municipal cost. If someone else is going through the trouble of an event, that we let them use our plugins, or simple add-ons like that. Like to see a policy that shows that external events take priority, or really are held to a really high standard, and that we include mandatory response times to external event organizers. Really, I think our rest of town policy is that it should never be more than 72 hours, and I'd like to see that added into this policy as well. Along with happy to see administration being able to approve things on Festival Street. That's what the street was designed for. Let's not add another layer of complication having to ask for a road closure there. We're calling it Festival Street, so it should be made for festivals, and that should be the easiest place in town to host an event. So, thank you.
Councillor Dakin.
Thank you. I'll try not to echo too much of what Mayor Hansen has just said, but I would like to see this not come to council for anything. I would like to see a designate from the administration, which could be the CAO, as per the policy, approve it, and let's just move forward. In the event that they can't move forward and they want to appeal it and come to us, great. You know, maybe we could be the final decision maker on that. I do agree fully with trying to shave down sometimes. However, I know that for RCMP being involved for a big event, like that takes time to do that. But I would like to see those numbers come down a little bit, if possible, because that's the #1 complaint that I've heard also. Takes so long. I'm not getting a response back, that story. So remove it from council's hands, let administration do its thing, and make it a little bit faster. And I also heard the same thing about an event that happened this last summer that was done so well, and they've consistently done it, and they just feel like they've been getting, like, I don't want to say nickel and dime because you have to pay for services, but if we could give a little more where we could, you know, take some of those prices down for these events to happen so that the profit margin goes up a little bit so that they continue to do those great things without the town having to pay for it, would be awesome. That's my take.
I'll jump in too, if I don't see any other hand right away. Echoing the idea, the theme of keeping council out of it, I actually lean that way as well. I was trying to think of when would council really be needed, and one of the thoughts was maybe the arterial roads. Maybe there is times where we think, okay, that's such a major effect on the town. Is that a value that we hold as a community to support this event that knocks out 50th Street for a whole weekend? You know, or Lakeshore Drive, or 47th, whatever. Maybe that's the one spot I could imagine it. Liquor in parks, not an issue to me, because there's so many provincial rules around it that I know that admin could make sure that they're adhering to those liquor laws better than I could. And the last time I can picture that liquor in the parks is like the Lions and the Aspire group having the family picnic, and they had a little beer garden there. I don't want to be the approving authority for that. I thought that's such a smooth and non-offensive beer garden that I just don't think I would want to be involved in that decision. It's kind of like an automatic yes to me, because of all those other controls that oversee liquor. Festival Street, I was thinking treat it just like a park. It's quick and easy to that same theme. There was a couple other little things I was noting to myself that in terms of festivals and things I'll bring up here, if I can make sure I've got everything circled here. Oh yeah, I'll echo one more thought, power versus generators. That's always bugged me actually at some of our events. The more generators we can get rid of while we're at a festival, the more enjoyable the festival is. The noise of generators I find just irritating. And whether I'm camping whether I'm at a town event. I just love the idea of, for many reasons, not just the noise, but sustainability too. I think we can be greener and by charging not too much and encouraging the use of an extension cord. Awesome. There's a cancellation policy in there, and I was thinking about groups need to give 1 week's notice. I was thinking weather might be an issue with some events, and you may not know until 2 days before. So I was wondering if we have to think about that. Another reason to bring it back to council was the idea of negative feedback. So if there's a complaint, I would hate something to have to come to council because there was one complaint. But I thought maybe each event that has complaints, the feedback comes, bring it back to council just automatically, but not the approval of the event, just the feedback. Now, if council says, holy smokes, that's incredibly serious and that's a major issue to us as a council, they could then recommend something to administration, irregardless of if a application is coming back from the same group or not. It might be an issue that council wants to chew over. So I don't see, because we could have one complaint and then it has to come to council, and that, to me, that wouldn't feel right. Because there's nearly always a complaint. Somehow there's always someone offended by something. And so I thought we shouldn't make that an automatic. Looking for any other hands for feedback for admin? I'm going to just review my notes at the same time.
Councillor,
Yes.
if you don't mind, can we go through a few of these?
Sure.
And then if there's more, otherwise I'm likely going to miss something, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
So on your last piece, and I will address what Mayor Hansen and Councillor Dakin said as well, but so you had mentioned feedback of events to council. So would council be in support of that feedback going during the quarterly report? So in the recreation, it was recreation, culture, and tourism. We'll change that now after this next quarter. So we do report on the external events. So would council like to see that feedback as part of that process? Because that would be really quite simple for us to do.
Yeah,
Okay,
see
so we
lots
can
of
do that.
nodding heads, yes.
Okay, easy, thank you. Generators, we can easily address generators. We don't always, I would say, promote the use of the power that we have. Right now, the power we have on the pier isn't the best. So we all heard from Mr. Lebsack the work that they'll be doing and the electrical upgrades they'll be doing on the pier, so that will be easier for us. In Centennial Park, the power is not always exactly what the group organizers needs, and so we cannot commit to that, and that's why we've been really hesitant in the past. Lakefront Park is another prime example where the power is not sufficient. Breakers could trip, and then the event, it's a real challenge for them. So that's one of the reasons why we do promote and recommend that they bring generators, because we can't guarantee that the power will be suitable for what they need. So just one thing just to keep in mind there. As we're doing the work on the pier, that will get easier for us and as infrastructure builds. I do want to address Festival Street a little bit later on because I do have some ideas on that and like to get some feedback from council if that's okay. Councillor Dakin. Oh, you mentioned giving more. So I guess my question to council is, how do we feel about the micro grant program that we have? So right now, all of those extra fees are built into the micro grant program. So is that something that council wants to see to continue? Do we want to take a portion? What does council want?
Okay, Mayor Hansen.
I like the micro grant program. I think that's still a real need when there's extra costs, but I think there's a base level of things that could just be included. Chairs, there could be a list of things. I think power, maybe you have to put something on there that says this isn't guaranteed. I think it depends on what you're using it for. The event at the pier needed to plug in one coffee pot, so probably could have been sufficient. If you're trying to do the stage, that could be a different situation, but I just think there could be a base list that doesn't require going to the micro grant portion of it that we just offer to all of our events. And then above and beyond that, yes, go through the secondary application process, which is pretty simple. That's not a complicated grant, but maybe it's not required for everything.
See some head nodding on that one. Yeah. Ms. Phillips?
One of the things I believe that holds up with the microgrants is the timing of the community services meetings. So what I'm hearing from here is there might be support on calling a special meeting in effort to get an event approved in a quicker timeline.
Councillor
Yes,
Dagan?
yes, that,
Okay.
but also just having that base
Yeah.
availability. Like you're gonna do an event that's gonna bring in how many people? You're investing this much money. We'd be happy to support you by doing this in return. As like if it had to be written on a policy, if you're going to be having over 250 people here and you are going to be seeing an economic return of X, then we are happy to support you in this way.
Thank you. Mayor Hansen?
And could microgrants be approved by administration up to a certain value without needing that extra step if they're asking for $500 or $1,200 and it fits all the criteria, particularly if it's an off-season event? I'm not even sure that a special meeting is required.
Councillor Dagan?
Sorry, just for clarity, those are for things in kind, not actual money, correct?
Yeah.
So we're saying in kind, up to $500 on behalf of the town, right?
Type of services?
Like services in kind.
I was thinking both. The microgrant
Oh,
could
no.
have a dollar amount on it.
That's where I would change it. For me,
Okay.
from my stance, I would say in kind for sure, but money, I would definitely want to, money's a whole other ballgame to me.
Councillor Payne?
I think it brings to bear a level of organization when you're asking for money specifically instead of asking for gifts in kind. And I think if you have that level of organization, you should know well in advance, you know, what you're going to be needing. So the gift in kind piece, the up to 500, you know, that's where you show up and you realize, oh, I don't have the generator here. I'm not going to be able to get it. Can I plug into here? That makes sense. But asking for money, that doesn't. So I don't agree with that.
Okay. Councillor Mearns?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Gift in kind I'm comfortable with, but money I would not be.
Okay. Councillor Parsons, any thoughts on that? Okay, I see a consensus then built on the idea of in-kind could be more automatic up to a certain level, but cash, not so much. Mayor Hansen and Councillor Payne.
I was just gonna say, if it's in kind, $500 is too low for me, because I think you could get there in seconds, just needing a couple of tables and some garbage bins. So to me, in kind, I don't wanna say is limitless, but might be in some ways.
And Councillor Payne.
I think when you're talking about too, having a baseline or a base set, this is what we can offer, can get dangerous as well. Just in the sense, like if you look at something like a concert at the Pier or a concert in Centennial Park, the amount of power needed for that, you know, is absolutely near impossible for what's there. So if we have an understanding that minimum or that base amount or that base list of things we'll offer, it's a pretty minimal list, because otherwise you can get into a real difficult spot where you've said, we'll offer you power, and all of a sudden you need two 220 volt boards. You know, it's a little, we got to be real careful with that, and I think that needs a lot more conversation, a lot more discussion. I think the other thing that I'm a little hesitant to, hearing you say limitless gifts in kind, I think back to events that I've been a part of organizing or I've been a part of doing, that limitless gets to $10,000 real fast. So I think there's definitely a limit. And I think that limit is going to be different for a category C than a category A. So we really need to kind of define that as well.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Collicutt?
So just so that council is aware of perhaps what gifts in kind could mean, some of it can be quite labor intensive for staff. So it could be staff setting up the small portable stage, for example, which could take hours. It could be Public Works going out and street sweeping a parking lot. It could also be them dropping off garbage cans, picking them up, so doing garbage dumps throughout the day. So there is the labor component as well that we do need to consider. On the other hand, it could be event fencing and event tents that the group organizer arranges in advance to go pick up, and that is a little bit different than the amount of labor that the departments would have to put forward. So that's another way that perhaps council could look at what those gifts in kind could look like, and if council would like, when we bring forward the new policy, we can bring some of those options to council, and council can pick what you want to see on that list, and we can work with the other departments on that as well.
I see lots of head nodding there. I had a question, thinking outside of the town's jurisdiction, but the question is about our new provincial rights that they, authority they've handed us that I'll just call by its colloquial name, upland rights. So if someone, I remember the motorbike races on the ice years ago, how does that type of festival event outside of our town affect any decision-making we might want to make? Because we might want to partner with an event, ice fishing, motorbike racing, out on the ice on provincial public land, as it's called. It does look like land in the middle of winter. And then how do we have rights over that, and how would we partner in the context of a policy like this?
So that's an interesting question to answer because there's so many different variables. When we do have events, and even before any of this came into play, we have partnered. We put on external events on the lake. So we put on the dragon boat races, for example, the ice fishing, and we've worked with other organizers, you know, on like the races on the ice and things. So it really depends on what's happening. It depends on what other activities are happening and what conflicts there could potentially be. So regardless, we are the upland owner. So typically people are going to be accessing those spaces or the lake, especially when it's on the frozen surface, through our park space. So regardless of what we have in place, we are still working with those event organizers. They are still contributing to our economy anytime that there's an event coming, whether it's on the water, on the ice, or in our community. It does have an economic impact, positive or negative, and so we work with those groups, and it could be as simple as helping to promote their event, right? So there's so many different ways that partnerships and support can look like, and it's really dependent on what that event is, the time of year, and what else is happening within our community.
Another question following up to that. In our upland rights, do we have a designated distance from shore where we are required to be asked? That might be a separate question from this, but I'm just thinking something just off the shore by Sunbreaker Cove is quite different than something happening just off our shoreline. I'm just wondering, do we have a designation there? It might, like I say, it might be an unfair question.
It is an unfair question.
Yeah.
No, I'm not the expert
Yeah.
in that area. I can speak though, typically when we're getting past the ice surfaces, is more of that free use area and space when we're working with the events. And again, it depends on what the event is and the safety pieces on it. So if you have an event where you have, you know, like let's say a derby, for example, you're going to want that a little bit further away, and the event organizers are really good about working with us. They're concerned about safety of their participants. We're concerned about safety on the lake as well. So I will say we've had some really good interactions with the group. I mean, we've been working with some snowmobile groups and things like that to help bring some events here. So at this point, that has not been a concern. It's not to say that it won't, but typically when we're working with large event organizers, we don't have any of those huge conflicts, and we can usually mitigate that, whether it's changing our parking a little bit on the skating rinks or helping them find some good routes.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other questions? I'm just flying over my sheet too to make sure I... Seeing none, any questions from admin?
Yes, I'm not done. So Mayor Hansen, and sorry, my notes aren't, I was trying to write quickly. You had mentioned external events and being able to prioritize them. Can you explain what you mean by that?
I'd love to see the town budget for 1 or 2 less town events and see 10 more external events. Use that same money and redistribute it. I would, the town never used to host quite as many events, and I will say we do an incredible job on the ones that we do. But I just wonder if we only have so many resources, how we could prioritize and make that money go further by encouraging those in the community to host those events and making it as easy as possible with the same amount of resources, because it's not always an option to add more money to do this. And yeah, I'd really like to see how through policy we can really identify that that is a priority for us, and that our internal events will never hold up an external event. Won't slow response time, anything like that, that we really prioritize those external contexts.
Okay, and then the other question, or comment, I'm sorry.
I'll just add a related thought. Thinking about the Winterfest times, in years past, we had more, call it service groups, and other groups like Scouts, hosting mini events within it, like the curling club will often host an event during the Winterfest on the lake with curling, for instance. And so that's still our event as a town, coordinated by us, but the inclusion of as many volunteer groups as possible is another theme that I think ties in with that kind of thinking, where we're involving as much community as possible. But I know that is up to the energy and abilities of volunteer groups. But I just think to make things easy to be inviting as possible, just like the theme of Mayor Hansen's thought of inviting groups to host events independently too.
Okay, and then I think my last question just on this piece, Mayor Hansen, is around the mandatory response times. So are you referring in the response times for staff to respond? Okay. So we are working, just so the council is aware, we are working on automating some of our workflows, and one piece of that is special events. So right now it's a very manual process, and it is quite time consuming. So we are looking with a few of the other departments on how we can automate some of these pieces. So one piece would be the special event piece. So the event organizers would be able to go into, I'll call it a portal, be able to submit all their information. They can save it in there, they can go back, and it would have the workflow set up so that it's not such a daunting task when you get, a large document and you have to fill it out and half of it doesn't apply to you. That can be really frustrating for some organizers. So really those pieces, if they click something, for example, like a beer gardens, another piece will open up. Or if it's, road closure, then another piece will open up. So they'll be able to see that. We'll also be able to really see what the response times are like from administration, as well as from the event organizers. It will help to keep everything really clear and transparent. So special events is one piece of it. One piece that we had originally or had previously spoken with council about is the work that we're doing in film. So film permitting would be another piece of it. Block parties with our WCC. Parks and open spaces permits. So when a group is requesting park or green space, that permit can be put in there as well. Mobile vending is another piece, and busking as well. So there's a few different pieces and elements within it. So that's one thing that we're looking at, and how we can really automate and streamline things, not only for administration, but also for those event organizers. When a group is submitting their event, our special events team is manually emailing out all of the departments. They're emailing HS, our RCMP, municipal enforcement. So it's a very manual process, and then relying on the person on the other end of the email to make sure they got it and that they're responding in a timely manner. In this workflow system, everything will be automated, really simple, easy to see. So somebody can go in there, they can see exactly where their permit is sitting, what pieces are missing, what questions still need to be answered, or what documents need to be uploaded. So it should be a quick and easy process for people, very transparent and clear. So I'm hoping that will be a nice improvement to our process. And so when we're ready, we'll bring that forward to council. It's not going to be something that's super quick. We want to make sure that it will work for all of the departments, so that as we move forward and as we do additional events and more things coming in, it'll be an easier process. The other thing would be anybody that's hosting a reoccurring event, their information is all saved there. So they're not starting from scratch every single time. We think that's something that will save people time and a lot of hassle, especially when you have volunteer groups and people are changing over, right? You have a new president, all that information and that backstory will be there as well.
Thank you. Any questions on that information? Okay. Any question for us? Other question, I should say.
Thank you. I think I'm okay on that piece. I have a lot of work to do, so thank you. The other one is Festival Street. So does council wish us to look at Festival Street and have different permitting requirements for it? So I got some really good information from you on what you're looking for, but does council want to almost grant special permissions in that area and say, for example, Festival Street is a great location, let's say for markets. So do you, stop. Keep going. Is council wanting administration to, say, these are all approved activities that can happen on this street. This is almost like a blanket kind of set of approvals that we can put on it, and we have a template built for those groups. And then this is also what you get with that. So it could be parking, for example. We already know that street has been built for events, so we have better electrical access. It's rolling curbs, for example. Is that something that council would like us to consider and build as part of the special event policy, or bring it back separately?
Councillor Payne.
I think when we designed Festival Street and the whole idea of Festival Street being that, I think it was with the intention of trying to get as much onto that street as possible, especially in the off seasons. So I feel very, very much that, we are not needing to be a part of that process, that's something that I believe, if we can come up with a plan for administration to be able to approve whatever it is that wants to go on to Festival Street, I think that's perfectly fine. And I think in as much as I don't always agree with, not charging for everything that's necessary, I think if you're putting something on Festival Street, it should come with an incentive to have it there. Because everyone wants to do things in Centennial Park. Everybody wants to do things in a space where the space is naturally full to begin with. That street, the way it's designed, we need to pull people into that area. So putting together a package, putting together a preconceived, this is what you get by having your situation on Festival Street, is a smart thing to do. And I think that's an administration thing to do. It's not something that I think we need to have a lot of conversations about, regardless of whether it's a Category A, Category B, Category C. That's an area that's designed for this, so let's use it in that way.
Councillor Mearns.
Yeah, I would echo those same comments, and just whatever we can do to promote that area, whether it's in marketing or advertising, and let's make real good use of that area because it's been designed that way. So whatever it takes to get more events there, if it's easier permitting or some other considerations, then absolutely I would be in favor for that, and for administration just to run with that for sure.
Councillor.
Yeah, like I said, when Councillor Mearns said, when we designed that, it's been underused and if we can promote it as much as possible because it's there. And I remember when we first started and we even wound it around in front of the post office, and if we could make it bigger or some way of connecting it a little different, I don't know whether that's possible, but it really worked when it sort of had a tie-in to 50th, to Centennial Street too, so.
Speaking administratively, I see no problem with having it within the same policy document, a special section for Festival Street. I don't think it needs to be a separate policy. I can see it being part of this one. Any other comments on that? I echo the comments made by Councillor Parsons, the others too. Any other thoughts? Okay. Ms. Collicutt, any other?
Yeah, so I do have one more question for council, and that's surrounding Festival Street. What does success look like to council on that? Is it hosting? I think it's really important that we do put a number on that so that administration knows if what we're striving for is sufficient. So is it 2 events in the summer? Is it 2 events in the off season? What does that look like?
Councillor Dakin?
Yeah, I would like to see events there every weekend in the fall, every weekend, and in the summer as much as we can. But for sure, I'd like to see something there every single weekend. Whether we're drawing people in by giving them more, or by having an event there, a different package, awesome. How do we let the world know that that's open for business and that we want you here and we're ready for you?
Councillor Payne.
So I'm not sure if I measure success in every weekend, but honestly, Monique, how many events did we have there this last year? Off the top of your head, just ballpark. Yeah.
Sorry, external events?
Yeah.
One external event? Not on Festival Street. Yeah, on Festival Street, but how many in total? External events last year? 10 maybe? It's in the quarter, so about 10 external events.
Okay, and so if we're measuring success, success usually is improvement on where we were. So for me, it's really just this idea of constant improvement. You know, if we had 10 this year, work to be able to improve that next year and subsequently the year after. I think if you're trying to measure success and you set a goal that is, you know, all 30 weeks of summer, you're going to fail. There's no possibility of succeeding in that. But constant improvement, stepping up and going forward. Well, I'm sorry, it's just, you know, stepping up and moving forward, I think is important. And I think trying to increase the number of external events, as the mayor said earlier, the more we can bring in external events and not have it be things that we are organizing or that we've been a part of organizing, I think that's simply going to be better long term, because it's not us having to instill life into that space. So anything we can do to increase the performance.
Mayor Hansen.
I have to add in one more thing just about increasing in the hand-holding. I would also love to see one of the things that we can offer is to have someone on site, one of our event staff, for the duration of an external event as an extra offering. But I like going from last year's number. I will say, looking at that report, I seem to remember last year was a huge nosedive from previous years of external events, like 20 to 11 or something similar to that. So maybe not quite that dramatic, but I feel like there was a bit of a jump. So I'd be looking to at least get back up to where we were years prior. Success on Festival Street to me looks like at least one event per 3 off-season seasons. And I'd love to see the farmers market encouraged and enticed to move there. That was one of the reasons we really designed that street, and we went through a lot of work to make sure it was consistent for that. And we know that they will have to move eventually. So that would be a big marker of success.
Yeah, if I can add, I like the idea of increasing the number of external events that we have with a focus of Festival Street. Not all events are going to be appropriate for that space. I do like the idea of starting on a smaller number. I think we would love to have so many external events that really at the end of the day, the town doesn't need to host events and we're just helping everyone else run theirs. Typically when we're rolling out new programs, and we saw this with the microgrant, the first year was very slow. I'm sure council remembers we ended up giving some of the funds to the schools for their playground project, which worked out amazing. It still helped out the community. This year we're seeing more of an uptake, and we'll only have a few $1,000s left coming. We have another microgrant coming to the next meeting. So we are seeing more of an uptake on that, although not all of it is events. Some of it is projects, or for example, like the Christmas Bureau, but we are seeing more picking up. We also have to be cognizant of the Centennial Street construction that will be underway in the next few years. So by starting off slow, it's something that will be attainable long term, and that we can really build on. So I think that makes sense. It's something that we can certainly work on and really promote external events, and working with those organizers on the best use of space and what we have available so that we meet everybody's needs.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Questions from Ms. Calcutt?
I think I asked enough questions. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll carry on to our next agenda item, that being B, the 2025 Advocacy Framework Term, the end report for for that term. We'll give a moment for Mr. McIntyre to get set up there. Page 12 in the package.
Okay, good evening, Council. On your next exciting agenda item, we're going to review our advocacy for the term. So, of course, Council, you've been present for all of this advocacy, but I wanted to outline some of the highlights and some of the changes that were undertaken during this term. So we'll start right on page 12 of your agenda, and we'll just outline advocacy. So it's the process of strategically managing and sharing knowledge to change or influence policies and practice that affect people's lives. Specifically, advocacy is undertaken by municipalities when a community has desired goals and priorities that fall outside of municipal jurisdiction. So of course, there's many things within council's jurisdiction that you can direct administration to undertake work on. And then there are a lot of our goals, hopes, and wishes that do not pertain to our direct authority that we need to ask things of from the provincial government, for instance. So early after Council's strategic plan meeting, you identified a few goals, including work under victim services. At the time, in our community, we did not have services available for victim services because of events that happened in our community, as well as changes in the provincial framework. And so Council advocated for services to support victims of crime within the community, and this advocacy was successful. So that has been marked as complete when the province of Alberta brought a new model of expanding help for victims, making sure that they would have consistent access to support across the province. Council also identified education, and specifically a new high school, healthcare, including work through the HART Committee, which is the Healthcare Attraction and Retention Team, to help attract and retain physicians and support the services that we have and advocate for more. And tourism. Now under tourism, because of what was available from the province at the time, we were advocating to be identified as a tourism-based community. The province shifted their priorities under that item, and so Council as well shifted its priorities. Which brings me to 2025, and that's when Council adopted their advocacy framework. So there were a lot of efforts undertaken under what would be identified as advocacy, but then Council agreed that they would like to see a more organized and effective advocacy strategy to pursue their goals, so we introduced the advocacy framework. Council passed a number of resolutions, which are included on page 13 of your agenda. I won't go through all of those because, of course, you were all there for that. But I will go now to page 14 of the report and your agenda. So after Council passed those resolutions, both administration and yourselves as Council were authorized and empowered to undertake more work under advocacy, and I want to highlight some of those successes there. So under education, you'll see there on March 19th, 2025, after persistent advocacy, the Government of Alberta awarded pre-planning dollars towards the development of a public and Catholic combined high school in Sylvan Lake. And since that time, we have been busy, both as administration and you as Council, in working together with Chinook's Edge and with Red Deer Catholic to satisfy requirements of the provincial government for those pre-planning activities, with the whole goal being to secure planning in to secure design dollars in an upcoming provincial budget. Work is, again, well underway in those items. We cannot predict what the province will do as far as their budgeting is concerned, but that's what advocacy is. So we're working hard on that. Our next meeting is this Thursday. Under healthcare, so Mayor Hansen sent a letter to Ministers Jones, LaGrange, and Dreeshen requesting an upgrade for Sylvan Lake Advanced Ambulatory Care to urgent care level services. And we received a letter back on September 24th, And there was some good news in there. Minister Jones said that, good news, we've got money set aside for planning for Sylvan Lake Advanced Ambulatory Care. Stopped short of saying, let's cut the ribbon on a new facility, but I think understanding that the province has set aside money to study our services and look for opportunities to expand them is really successful news for our advocacy program. Under tourism, and again, the province indicated to us that they had changed their approach to tourism, so did we. Mayor Hansen sent a letter to Minister Boychenko requesting support for Sylvan Lake's transition from emerging to breakthrough classification. So to give you some more background there, the government of Alberta is working with Travel Alberta when it comes to tourism. They have identified TDZs or TDZs, tourism development zones, and so we are not alone as a municipality in this emerging through breakthrough status. We are looped in with everyone from Olds to Lacombe. So work is undergoing there. We had an introductory meeting with Christopher Smith from Travel Alberta, and it went very well. So both Mayor Hansen and Councillor Mearns were with us on that meeting. So I would say introductory progress has been made there. Next, as an administration, we are working to reach out to the rest of the communities within that TDZ. It always hurts me to say Z, by the way. TDZ, I'll try and police myself to say that. And we'll continue to work with them to identify joint priorities in that area to see more attention given to the progress already being made by the town of Sylvan Lake and to partner with Travel Alberta on ongoing opportunities to enhance our economy here. Travel Alberta made it clear that their priorities align with ours in that we are looking for enhanced support in the shoulder seasons, if you will. So that is fall, winter, and spring. And there are a lot of alignments between the town of Sylvan Lake approach, which is outlined in our DLMP, which our staff have worked incredibly hard on, and with the policies that already exist within Travel Alberta and the province of Alberta. Let's see, so through those elements, I think that it's safe to say that we've seen considerable progress in the town of Sylvan Lake's advocacy priorities, especially since that advocacy strategy was adopted by council. Next steps, we've got a few things happening. So obviously there's an election. I'm not sure if you guys are, you are all aware. Okay, great. So we are less than 2 weeks away from that. After the election, we'll bring those priorities back to council, which is the continuous body here, and say, okay, after our strat planning, how do these advocacy priorities look to you, council? And would you like to see them furthered, which we hope, or changed, augmented, and of course you will give us instructions there. We will also be updating our website to reflect this report and the term end report. And this information will also be made available to all the successful candidates in the election to say this is the work that has been ongoing in the recent time. And again, it'll be coming back to council for their review to see if we'd like to continue in the same direction. So tonight, we're not looking for any resolutions from council, but we're always open to your feedback if you'd like to fill in any blanks or make additional comments to what you've heard here tonight.
Any questions right now off the top? Councillor Mearns?
Just a comment. You know, it doesn't seem that long ago that we decided on these advocacy items, and here we are reviewing it at the end of a term. And so thank you for the review. It helps us, you know, remember a few things that we went through and some of the changes and challenges. And it's just nice to reflect back and really, you know, check boxes on everything, right? It's always unfortunate if you have these items and it's like, oh boy, we didn't really go very far on that. We've gone a long ways on all of them, so, you know, and succeeded completely in one. So looking forward to that, what that looks like in the future for the council at the time. And so thank you for bringing this forward.
Thank you. I had two minor questions, or one minor one, maybe the other one's more major, but the next meeting this week, Thursday, on education. Is that with the planning, the interagency of school boards, just to clarify?
That's right. So that's a meeting with the pre-planning committee.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So Chinook's Edge, Red Deer Catholic, Town of Sylvan Lake.
Okay, good. And my other question is regarding the meetings that Councillor Mearns and Mayor Hansen and staff had with Travel Alberta. Did Christopher Smith from Travel Alberta give any kind of roadmap of how our community or a community moves to the next level? Do they have set parameters that they check off for a community when they raise their, level of status, if we can call it that?
I can start with an administrative response, and then I'm sure your colleagues
Sure.
on council have something to add as well. So we are doing a lot of information sharing with them, ensuring that they know about our DLMP, all of the elements in it, and what we plan to do in the future, as well as our efforts that we are already engaged in those shoulder seasons. Again, just to show those alignments with the Travel Alberta strategy. So we are currently sharing information with them, and they indicated that they'd be happy to receive that information. So that is the administrative update, but I'm sure there's more from the political side as well.
Sure. Councillor Mearns?
Yeah, and I'll top up, and then I know Mayor Hansen will, because she asked that specific
okay,
question.
great.
So it was interesting to, well, I'll preface this. Christopher is just an interim representative.
Okay.
Our previous representative had moved on, so he's interim. So there wasn't a lot of committal, I will say that. But wanted to hear what we had to say and the information we presented. He was surprised at the number of tourists we see compared to other areas that he thought saw more. So it was very interesting to see his expression, his take on it. But I'll let Mayor Hansen top up on that as well.
Yeah. Mayor Hansen.
She's got something first.
Hello, everyone. So I will just add that experience development and market readiness for experiences throughout our entire region is a major factor in elevating our destination status, as well as an accommodation piece. So there's a real lack of quality and boutique, unique style accommodations across our zone. And so development of those pieces will help elevate our entire zone to the next level.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mearns really summed it up. I think we had a great conversation, but I think I was surprised by how many things surprised him. And there was a few things that were stated in there, and we were able to say, well, actually, wait a minute, our numbers are different than what had been shared. The tough thing is we know this is an interim position. So I think there's a lot of that information sharing that needs to happen, and it will probably need to start at ground zero again at the point where they bring someone more permanent in, and that's where the real work will start. But the points that were mentioned really are what we need to focus on next, and hopefully we get some work done in the meantime, so when that long-term representative comes in, we're able to just move a little bit closer to the goal line.
Okay, thank you for those answers. And I was thinking about some information that Councillor Mearns had asked admin for regarding, cost of the waterfront, you might say, in terms of the tourism effect and how we serve the waterfront. And Mr. Lebsack provided that information, and I was in parts a bit surprised by how much it was. And then knowing that we do collect parking fees, which is massive as well, but it was lower than the costs. And on first glance, I was like, oh no, tourism's costing way more than I thought. But I thought also about the fact that, and we need to look at that difference and advocate, that was our original ask of province, was this resort town status, get some extra funding to support us with all these extra costs. However, we have to admit also that if there wasn't a single visitor in this town, we would still need to have a bathroom, clean up the mess, mow the grass, take care of the plants. Like there's this, call it a fixed cost to having a park in a town too. So, but I think it's worth pursuing that information that Councillor Mearns asked for further, over the next years to still advocate for, and we've had that discussion already. We've changed a bit of the gears. We're focusing a bit different now, but we can't forget that piece. And also to share with residents too that, we have support through our parking fees and that. We really are covering a large part of that most obvious cost that people seem to get so irritated about. Just thought that was great information that Councillor Mearns got.
And just to comment on the all of the priorities, congratulations to the leads on all of them. The education one, the goalposts keep changing. So, Councillor Payne, hang in there, buddy. And, but healthcare, congratulations to Councillor Rilling and Mayor Hansen for really taking it like 90% of the way. So that's huge. And to Councillor Mearns, the goalposts keep changing there too. So it's been a tremendous success, just getting, prioritizing and working on it. So congratulations.
Mayor, thank you. Councillor Parsons, Mayor Hansen.
I was just looking for the official job title and I don't have it, but I also want to note that Councillor Rilling and myself and Ms. Phillips will be headed up to Edmonton next Tuesday for one more healthcare meeting. They offered us 4 date options. Next week was one, or the 21st was the next one. So we thought that might be, we might not have a new council prepped by that next morning because I don't even think the results will be official by then. So we've got that scheduled up for next week, and the goal out of that meeting really is to find out what next steps look like. How can the town of Sylvan Lake be involved? What do timelines potentially look like? So we'll have the opportunity to ask all those questions, and you can expect a report back after Tuesday, and the next group can take that and run with it.
Okay, thanks for the update as well. Any questions for council for this report? Mr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No more questions per se, but we appreciate council's feedback about the strategy, and we'll look forward to working on it more after the election.
Thank you, everyone, and especially staff for leading this discussion. All right, it is exactly 1 hour. There's not a lot on the agenda, but I think we should take a 6-minute bathroom break and water break. So that would put us at 5:08 or 9 to restart. Our next item is municipal indicators. In some ways, I feel that we just need a big rubber stamp to say check. That's the feel the report had when I read it. But Ms. Phillips will lead us on this discussion, please.
And really, I'm just going to open up the floor for discussion. This is a report we get from, we don't actually get this report unless you have an area that is red. And all of our areas were green, so we actually don't even get notified because we weren't lacking in any of the areas, which is really nice to see. So including the report here for your discussion, if council did want to have any discussion around the items on the report.
Yeah. Mayor Hansen.
I love this report. We did get it emailed to us. I'm not sure if it went to everyone or if I forwarded it after we received it, but I know I did share it, but it was a handful of months ago when it first came in. But my question is, when I go on the website and I'm trying to compare us to the other stats, I really can't find, I can compare our municipality to another singular municipality and look at their stats. But are there any averages that are shared or any more consolidated data to compare ourselves against? Because while this data was really helpful, I just got lost in their system. And I love a good stat.
I'd have to double check to see what kind of reporting we can get out of there. I've honestly only ever done the one-to-one comparisons, so I'm not sure, but I can look into that for sure.
Thanks.
And I had one question just regarding, it's always good to be in the green when your doctor tells you, you know, all these levels and cholesterol, everything is good. But at the same time, you also look for any trend that, oh my goodness, my dad is going through the green very quickly towards yellow. Do we have any markers that in any field that suggest that, oh, we have to watch this in near future, or are we staying solidly, call it green in these areas? Is there anything that we should be aware of? I mean, of course, everything is in the green, and that's good news.
I have my report upside down. There we go. You know, the fact that there's no concern from the province is one thing. I think there's always room to look at, you know, things like, you know, our Director of Corporate Services, as mentioned before, our debt limiting. You know, so there's different areas that we also need to look at internally to say, where do we want to be in these areas? This just shows that the province, there's no red flags for the province. So, you know, and at that point they step in and say, you know, pay attention to this area. You're not investing enough into your infrastructure. You need to do more. You need to, you know, you're going too high on the debt limits and things like that. But the fact that we're in the green for the province, I think is a very good indicator, which is what the intent is for.
Okay, yeah. Thanks. Councillor Payne.
I think when you look at the categories and you look at the what's considered successful in the categories, it's kind of horrifying. Like when you look at this and you think 120% of its revenue is your debt to revenue percentage. Like if we were close, I would be concerned. But when you look at our numbers in comparison, we're not even, like you asked that question, there's nothing we're even close to. So it's a really great thing. But just to think, if we were red in any of these things, it would be terrible. Like some of these things are unbelievably not good. So I'm glad we're green because red or yellow would be awful.
Councillor Mearns.
And to shine a little more light on that, I did a quick little exercise and plugged in the results and the questions into our favorite ChatGPT just to see what it would pull out. So humor me if you will, it's really quick. Sylvan Lake has stayed on a solid financial ground. We're collecting almost all the taxes owed, keeping debt low, and building a healthy 13.6 million savings for the future. We're also investing in our roads, facilities, and infrastructure so they stay in good shape, rather than letting them wear out. With nearly 14% growth in population over the past decade, it's clear people want to live here. So
that's
just really summarized it, and it's like, ooh, that's really good.
Yeah. Nice to hear. Any other comment or question? Okay, we'll close this item then. Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Our next item is Council Committee and Events Reports. We have two that were added to our package from Mr. Mearns, Councillor Mearns. And any questions on them? I had one minor one to ask, actually, of admin, based from Councillor Mern's report. They were talking about the TED programs, Tourism Entrepreneur Development, I believe that's what it stands for, TED. Does admin have a feedback from the participants of that program? And the only reason I ask that is just because I talked to one of the participants and they wanted to give feedback, or were going to give feedback, and I just wanted to make sure that was an open process in terms of TED participants and how they give feedback on their business experience over the previous summer or season.
Councillor Ustindi, I don't have that information. I would definitely need to speak with our Economic Development Officer, Amanda.
Okay.
But we can get that information back to you.
Sure.
Okay?
Yeah, and just, yeah, that open communication spirit. And
Okay.
And the only update I can give on my own report is simply that because I've made a comment about the lodge and sitting down with community in the past, since that report was written, the lodge has had more discussion with one of the service groups in town, the Lions, and there's ongoing discussions about how they can work together. So I think that's a very positive development in the housing sector. So I just leave it at that there's people continuing to delve deeper into it. And that's, any other questions? Seeing none. Next item is upcoming meeting and events. The list is before us. Mayor Hansen.
Just a request about aligning this list with future dates of the actual meeting date. And if there's a date that falls in between the agenda published date and the meeting date, let's put it on the meeting before. The last couple, it seems like we've reverted back to getting a list of events that sometimes are in the past, so that we're a bit more forward-looking. Thanks.
Yeah, something getting clipped off in time. Okay, seeing none, I believe I can say this meeting is adjourned. We have completed our agenda. All right, have a great evening, everybody.